Ready? Good to go?
Good to go.
All right. All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome. Today is February 7th, 2020. Welcome to our first special topic session of the new year. Today, we're talking about using video to learn. Before we get started, let me go ahead and introduce everybody. Eric, you want to kick us off?
Hey, Eric Carraway, percussayo. I'm phoning in from Stuttgart, Germany, where it's 8 in the evening.
Karldrumtech, also known as Karldrumtech, here in Torrance, California. It is 11:13 a.m.
And my name is Huei-Yuan Pan, just after 11, also in Cupertino, California. Carl's in the south of California, I'm in the north of California, but we're both stateside now at least. So, well, let's jump into it, guys. Let's talk about video for learning. I know that I'm sure not just for the three of us, but so many people use video now to learn. But today we're going to talk about it specifically from the perspective of being a musician or an artist, a teacher and a student. I'm sure we've all experienced in some way how we've used video to learn. But here in this special topic session, we'd like to talk about 5 specific ways that we share with our students or that we use ourselves that maybe you can add to your list of strategies that you use when you use video to learn. So the first one that I like to bring up is inspiring. Seeing something that impresses you. Something that we've talked about before in our special topic session is that back in the day for us, if we wanted to see drum corps, or I didn't know about WGI when I was in high school, but to watch drum corps, we had 2 options. Either you go see the show live in the summer, or you catch the PBS broadcast.
PBS.
At the end of the summer, right? Those were your 2 options. If you were lucky, occasionally you could get a bootleg videotape of like a drumline parking lot mix of videotapes. I feel now the way that like my teachers used to talk to us about cassette tapes or like 8 tracks or, you know, and now when we talk about videotapes, it's kind of the same feeling now. But typically I see 2 responses to students when they see something that is really impressive on video. For some students, they see that and they go, "Oh, I give up. I can't do it." You know, like it's actually the opposite of inspiring them to do something. And what I would say is, don't let that deter you, because I think early on, I just always had this mindset. My teacher told me, like, there's always going to be somebody better than you. So if you see someone that can do something that you can, or that is better than you, and you find that like discouraging, then you're setting yourself up to be discouraged a lot. And what I would suggest is, on the other side of things, if you see someone that can do something that you can't do or that you find really impressive, you should take that and pause and say, like, wow, that's amazing. How can I assimilate that superpower or that thing that they have so that I can level up my own skills? What do you guys think about that?
The access to inspirational material, I feel, is, there's such an abundance of it now. I remember those VHS tape days. I never went to a live drum corps show before marching drum corps. I had only had access to tapes. Yeah.
Wow. Really? You just showed up to your first camp or like, put me in, coach?
Right. I had no idea what I was getting into. I was so unprepared, got cut. But yeah.
I myself took a lot of pride in going out to the shows and bringing my camcorder and, taking some lock videos and then enjoying them for my own purposes later to like be inspired and to hype and to see how cool the activity is. For me, a lot of it was that, all these guys so focused, playing clean. It's so badass. Like, if the normal public saw this, like they would be so amazed. Like, that's what I thought,
I think as we're going through each of these points, one thing that we could do is try to add a call to action on each one of these points. And the first one that I would offer to teachers that might be watching this is something that my band director used to do when I was in high school. And it seemed kind of trivial. I don't want to say trivial, but it wasn't a big deal at the time. But I remember during summer band camp week, as people were milling into the band room before rehearsal started, they would have the big screen on. And they would be playing drum corps shows just as people were walking on. And like some people would stop and stand there and watch, and some people would just be hanging out and getting ready. But just the fact that it was on and we had a a vision of what it was supposed to look and sound like, what we were working towards, that made a big impression on me as a student. And so for teachers, it's super simple. As class is starting, just put on a recording or put on a video as the students are coming in. It takes a little bit of planning and setup on your part, but I think the seeds that you might be planting are bigger than you think.
Yep.
Do you guys have a call to action that maybe students can use for video that is inspiring to others?
Like, I think that, if you see a video, you see a performance, see, a show on video, and then you think, it's so good. I don't know if I can ever get to that level. I can't do what they're doing. I think one of the things I've learned from a band director I used to work for is, like, when those videos were on in the band room, like you said, he would challenge the students by saying, like, well, you can take at least one of those things and use that, to learn from. Like, like you all could, learn how to march and step better. You all could learn how to be more at attention. You can all work on your, horn angles. Take one element from that high level execution and make it your own. Like, that's possible, right? You may not be able to do everything, but try to take one thing. Like, you're capable of that, right? So I think that's the lesson in, if you see something that's at a higher level than you are, try to learn one thing and incorporate one thing into your playing. And if you do that every single time, one thing adds up. One thing, two things, three things. Now you're starting to get closer to that level.
Awesome. Totally agree. So on that note of adding things to your arsenal and taking other people's skills, the second point that we might bring up is documenting the progression of learning or getting better or acquiring a new skill. This is something that happens to me as I learn about audio, video production, content creation, things like that. You see, like, the big time creators who are doing their thing, and we all have this experience where we're like, wow, that looks amazing, or that sounds amazing, right? But if they're the type of creator that has been, doing it for a long time, and you're able to go back into their backlog of content, and you can see, Jimmy way back when he was just sitting in the corner of his bedroom and the audio quality or the video quality was terrible, or, they're learning how to play double stroke rolls for the first time. It's like, da, 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 da. And all of a sudden, 4 years later, they're standing in some world-class line, looking like a monster. For me, at least, instead of going like, oh, I'm never going to reach that high level, it kind of humanizes that process, and you go like, oh, they were just a normal person also starting out doing it, and it was bit by bit over time that they were able to reach that level of expertise.
Yeah, I think just as a percussionist, or if you do, if you're into any kind of skill set, you're learning any kind of skill set, it's hard to see the progression in real time. Like, all when you're doing the thing is, like, how much you suck at everything, right? But it's like, if you saw yourself like years ago and there's video of that, you'd be like, holy crap, like, I'm really good. In comparison to, back in the day, right? So, that's why I say, like, it's really hard to see it in real time. You have to really go back. So if you have the opportunity to document that, you can remind yourself of, like, how far you've come, rather than always reminding yourself of how much further you need to go. People don't realize, how much further they've gone. Right?
Yeah. It's easier said than done, because in this regard, you have to have a certain mindset where that self-consciousness that comes with filming the video or posting, you could film the video and not post it if that's a thing for you. Like, you feel conscious about people critiquing you or saying things about you that might affect your self-esteem. But just to have that video content so that you can make that comparison later on in a date, like Carl's saying, you can then see the progress that you've actually made back and forth. Eric, I'm going to throw this to you for a moment, because I know you are such a perfectionist when it comes to video and content, right? How does that make you feel? And did you feel self-conscious? Let's say not even like shooting video of what you're doing, but like when you first started putting out Percuss.io videos, where you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to put this one out yet, or let me tweak it for another 6 hours before I ship it. Do you have any words of advice on that?
Yeah, there have been a lot of projects that I have not taken across the finish line just because I don't feel like the quality is good enough, you know? And then, yeah, it's tough. There's never a, I do feel that in the long term, quantity will win out over quality. Like you just have to get reps on stuff. Yeah, some of the stuff I've been doing lately, I don't feel like is very. I'm not doing anything that's like totally new. It's just more like, okay, just getting more practice on what I know how to do. Like, can I get faster at this? Can I make these videos? It's just like, just can I get reps on it? And yeah, just find one tiny thing to improve about the process. Yeah, it's tough.
Have you had examples for yourself where maybe you didn't think you thought it wasn't quite ready, but you shipped it anyway, and then it actually you got a positive response on it?
Yeah, but there's still stuff where like, oh man, like I know like a transcription is not right, or there's like stuttering in a video, or yeah.
Well, see, so what everyone is getting a glimpse of is the perfectionist that I think resides in all of us, and sometimes you just have to make those constraints and say like, I got to ship it by this date. So that's probably, I think you're selling yourself short too, Eric. You have been doing some new stuff from the content I've been watching on the channel. Is like you've been experimenting with like hand notation.
Yeah.
Beyond like computerized written notation. So
yeah, that's been a new thing for sure.
Check that out if you guys haven't seen it. You can find Eric at percuss.io on social media channels. Okay, let's move on. This is probably the most obvious one that you use video for, but I think we could talk about this a little bit, which is video is such a powerful tool for sharing, transferring, and curating ideas. In the grand scheme of things, video is actually a relatively new technology in the history of mankind, right? And that we're kind of in this frontier phase of how it's being used. Let's take each one of these ideas at a time. So just sharing an idea, first thing that comes to mind for me is like right now what we're doing. We're taking our thoughts and we're documenting them somehow. We're capturing it in audio, we're capturing it in video. And people can be listening to this in a variety of formats. Maybe you're listening to this on SoundCloud right now. Maybe you're watching this in your Facebook feed as a micro clip. Maybe you're watching it as a macro clip. But we're sharing our ideas. These are just thoughts that we're using, that we have floating on our heads, and we're able to build upon each other's ideas. Do you guys have anything to add to the sharing theme?
Speaking of ideas, like, you could throw in something in a lick, like maybe Hertes, where the left hand is accented. There might be some people who know it. There might be some people who don't know it. Then they see it and go, oh, I've never known that you could do that. And then they might take that and then they'll add it to their performances, whatever, right? So that's one way to kind of expose others to ideas that maybe they haven't thought of or they haven't seen.
That's great. That's such a great example, because I remember the moment I saw Hertes for the first time. I was like a 10th grader, and it was a senior at high school, and he showed me it in the back percussion room. He showed me Hertes, and he showed me how to play them with all accented left hands at the same time. And it was one of those ones like, oh, that's cool. And then my brain exploded when he accented all the left hands.
You guys still call those are grandmas, right? You call those grandmas?
No, grandmas are when you do
paradiddle taps.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's like almost a hair. It's like a hair toe with one more note.
Yeah, it's like you add the double right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So on that sharing, I guess sharing and transferring is basically, how would you differentiate these words? Sharing is you are taking something that you have in your mind and putting into some sort of tangible form. And then I would say the transferring is the ability to send it across without bounds of geography or time, for that matter. Yesterday, Eric, you and I were talking about asynchronous learning, right? And so now, even though we're recording this now, people are probably going to be listening to this a week from now, a month from now, a year from now. Okay. Third thing, how about the curation of ideas? We're living in an age of abundance with video and media and content, right? And there's like more than you can consume now.
Yeah.
So the first thing is with our smartphones or the internet connection, you basically have access to any type of information that you could possibly need or want, and in some cases more than you can handle. And so now we have this next phase where I think where the curation of these ideas is very valuable and important, right? So I think of this as, you know, back in the day when your friends would make you like a mixtape or a mixed CD, right? And so now you're taking songs from your favorite artist, you're putting them together. If it's a party mix, you can think about how you want the vibe or the feel of the party to progress throughout the evening. You know, it's the same thing here. If you're putting together a curated list of videos for your students to watch or for a colleague to watch on a specific topic, that's very important too, because you can bring together a lot of different ideas from different people, different places, all into one playlist.
Yeah, speaking of playlists, it's like, you know, I could probably put together all the YouTube videos I've done in regards to auditions. So now instead of somebody sifting through my entire library of stuff, there's a playlist. Right. Um, full disclosure, I have not done. But if I were to create a playlist, I would have enough videos to populate that with all of the videos I've done on, like, for example, like audition.
Yeah. And actually, I think you've just given yourself a really good idea with that, Carl, because that the power of search and filtering is really one of the most valuable things that you could be offering, because what you're essentially doing is saving people time also, right? So I can tell you how often it is, like, I'll get a question to the direct messages and say, oh, do you have how do I do this? And it's gotten such to the point where I can just point them to a video. I'll give them a short answer and say, like, you know, for you, I would do this, 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 this. For further video watching, do this. And now they've got 10 minutes of solid content that I would say also too, not only is it information, but it's information that's been trimmed and edited. So it's like really tight. You're not wasting a lot of time watching me say and you know, try to turn my metronome on and, you know, all the things that happen that sometimes happen when it's live or in the moment. So on this idea, I want to shout out Todd Meehan from Liquid Drum, because he's someone who I've been watching. Like, I've been lurking. I usually say, like, hey, don't be a lurker, you know, enjoy and join in the comments. But Todd, if you're listening to this for some reason, you know, I apologize. I have been lurking in the background because usually I'll just catch a video of yours in passing. But if you don't know Todd from Liquid Drum, he's been sharing these little practice room videos of himself. And it's part documentation. He's learning a piece. Sometimes it's him sharing like an actual teaching tip or an idea. I don't mean to say like actual, because not to say that he's usually not teaching, but Todd also is like very funny. He'll do like little impromptu comedy sketches, or at least that's how they come across. So it's like part entertainment, part information, education. So curating those ideas into one list, there's a way for you to share and transfer information across time and geography. Do we have a call to action on that for students and teachers? They could do any of those things that we suggested, right? Students, if you're sharing transfer and creation ideas, make a video and send it to your teacher and ask for feedback.
Make a playlist of stuff that you need to learn, you know. If you need to work on tap drags, find a video that talks about flat tap drags, and then, you know, maybe create a Google Doc, have a link to that. Okay, what else do I need to work on? Oh, okay, singles. Okay, find a singles video, whatever, right? Doesn't have to be our stuff. It can be from anywhere, you know.
Yeah. Just making a playlist of your favorite educational videos that you've gained from, and then if you're a section leader, now you can share that list with some of the underclassmen or friends that are asking you for this idea. Okay, great. Let's move on. Number 4, practice tool. This seems obvious. We all know about it. I think most people, for whatever reasons, don't take the time to do it often enough. And I think this is one of those things now that I kind of see separates someone from a beginner from a pro. If you really want to get an objective read on what you look and sound like as you're playing and practicing, video is one of the most powerful tools that you can be using. Recently I've been doing some studio updates in here where I've got microphones and I'm recording myself as I practice, and then I'll listen back to it, and I realize that I'm not phrasing things or playing things the way that I want them to come across, and closing that gap between what you hear in the moment and what's actually happening. That's a process that takes time, and so you're always trying to close the gap between those perceptions that you might have. So have you guys used video or audio with your own practicing or with your students?
With my students, for sure. Like, I'll always tell students, hey, use a mirror to what, because, we want to work on, the slicing that you have. So one way to do it is with a mirror. And they'll say, oh, like I can't really get into the bathroom, or wait, I don't really have a mirror like in my room. Like there's a bunch of stuff in front of it. We really work. Okay, great. Then use a video, right? And it's like, you can either use it in real time as a mirror. You don't have to record, or record it, watch it later, right? Either way, that is the workaround for, oh, don't have a mirror? Okay, fine, use a camera. Everybody has a phone. Yeah, everybody has a video camera. Use that.
Yeah, I think recording practice sessions is certainly valuable. Just going back and listening to stuff, like maybe not immediately, but let some time pass and go back and listen.
And coming back to it with like fresh ears.
Yeah.
The next day, or even like an hour or two later.
Yeah, you might find something you haven't heard yet.
Yeah.
Recording doesn't lie.
Yeah. Tape don't lie.
I think there's a little bit of like extra pressure too. Like even if you're never going to look at the recording, like lately I recorded some marimba stuff lately, and I set the camera up, and just, something just feels a little bit differently when the camera's rolling.
Yeah, it's almost like you're performing for an audience all of a sudden, right? So whatever nerves or feeling that happens, I would attest to this, that the more you record yourself when you're performing, it makes it less stressful, or less like, oh, change everything now that there's an audience. And you can just do what you've been doing when you're practicing by yourself, right? I'd also say that this is a good time to mention some of the things that we've been doing as a team, is taking this idea of notation, teaching videos, recording students, and with a lot of the features that we've been building into our products and tools, is the ability to slow things down video wise. If you're learning something from a video, you can slow it down so that you can see what the sticking in is, or what it exactly people are playing. If you're trying to self-analyze, you can see like, oh, why does it get weird there? Why am I struggling with that? Oh, it's because I'm not using the right mechanics. I'm doing a downstroke there, when maybe if I use a prep stroke or an upstroke, it would help prepare me for that next move. Or I'm missing that shift. That's why I keep hitting that wrong note in the octave. I'm not opening up the interval in my hand wide enough. But slowing things down, looping the video as you're practicing, and then any sort of multimedia where you can combine the video with the notation. Those are ways to just kind of enhance and facilitate your own practice, because you're trying to maximize time that you're spending on something, regardless of what it is that you're working on, right? Okay, call to action for that. I'll throw one out for teachers, is to just record a rehearsal that you're running. Super simple. If you have an external video, great. If you just, like Carl was saying, just use your phone, throw it up and record that rehearsal. You don't have to record it with a plan of sharing it with the class, although that's another great, there's a series of activities that you could set up with your students, and they can plan reflections and et cetera, but just for yourself, recording the rehearsal with video so that you can go back and listen to it and see if what you're hearing when you're standing on the podium or teaching the private lesson student is actually what you see and hear when you're watching it from an objective perspective later on. All right, and the final point that we'll do to wrap up this part one of the series, I'll say using video as a lesson primer or supplement has been one of the most powerful things that I think I've started to incorporate into my own teaching in the last 5 years, I would just say. So as a video lesson primer, I've had this happen now where if I have a recurring lesson student, they'll send me a mid-week video, something that they can record of themselves between lessons. I get the video back, and then I can see if they're headed in the right direction. So now I'm cutting down that time between feedback for them from 7 days to 3 days or 4 days. And I can say, hey, these are things that you're doing right in your practice. Keep doing this. notice these things that maybe that you've forgotten that we mentioned in our video or in our previous lesson that you maybe should spend some time and awareness on, right? So as a primer, or if it's a student that you've never taught before, they can send you a video lesson, and instead of spending the first 20, 30 minutes of the lesson figuring out what things that they're doing or things that they can be improving on, you already have a baseline to work off of. So when the lesson time actually starts, you hit the ground running right away. Any other ideas for how to use it as a primer?
I think the primer thing reminds me a little bit of like video assignments for, like, if you're doing the drum corps thing, like in between camps, you may get new material or fresh material, and you got to make a video of yourself playing it and have that ready to go. I always remember them, for me, being like, you know, they were due like a couple of days before camp started. But there was something in like just going through the process of making a video that made you much more prepared for the camp weekend. So I see a similar thing to, you know, the primer. If you're asking a student to, you know, just record whatever you plan on working in the lesson, that gets them up to like a certain level of preparation because they had to go through the process of making the video.
Mm. Yeah, so it's going to elevate the baseline of the next lesson just because they went through that process.
Yeah, and I think the way I've used it is just, you know, you go through the lesson. I mean, you know, that information sticks. Maybe some of it sticks, maybe some of it doesn't. But when you do like maybe a follow-up video, like, all right, so remember what we talked about during the lesson? It's this. Let me just demonstrate for you again one more time. Now, instead of the lesson that, you know, went by and there's no recall on it, you have a video that you can recall and hopefully reminds you of some of the some aspects that maybe you might have missed during the actual lesson in real time.
I would say it's also great feedback for the teacher, right? Because now the student is showcasing what they were able to retain from your lesson, right? And so if they're still doing that thing that you talked to them about 3 or 4 days ago, that you know that you need to maybe spend some more time and attention on that with them in the next lesson. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then the other one I mentioned was using it as a supplement, right? So now you do the lesson, you finish the lesson, and then a couple days goes by, and it's kind of what we referenced earlier, which is a student says, hey, I'm having trouble with this. Maybe you already have a video that you can send them to help them with that. Maybe during the lesson, you see that they're struggling with something. You're saying like, hey, your flam, you're still prepping both notes when you play your flam and your grace note's too high. You need to go back and rewatch my how to play a flam video. And I go through all those steps in 3 minutes that have you do those. So go back and use that. So that's using it as a supplement. And I would say also maybe if you identify a problem during the private lesson that a lot of your students are encountering, instead of saying the same thing 6 times across 6 different students, you can make a video. And then now that piece of information, how you would explain it, how you would sequence it, is captured in video for that moment. And then all of your future and former students can benefit from that information as well.
Yep.
Call to action on this lesson primer or supplement for students.
Before your next lesson, record what you plan on working on.
And if you don't take private lessons, you can even just make a video of what you're going to play for your next playing test for your teachers. Send it to them in advance, get some feedback, and you're already, you know, that many steps further ahead than your classmates when it comes time for the playing test.
If you're an instructor in a drumline, ask your students to send them a video of them playing the new exercise you wrote, the new, you know, the opener for, you know, this spring season, whatever. Right?
And the key there too, I think that Carl hit on, is that you have to give them a very specific target. Play this to this, or give them some parameters, and then they can choose within those parameters. And if you do this, and this is the first time that you start to do with your students, you're going to find that you're going to get a wide range of recording issues. You know, the camera's too close, the audio is clipping. So that's going to be a learning process to help your students through as well. We should make some sort of handout. It's like the one pager that you give all your students to help them create a good video. I've also got this question from teachers too about like, hey, I want to make some educational videos for my students. What are some guidelines or parameters that I could do to kind of fast track making a better video? Because I know for me, I went through that period of like, where do I put the camera and how do I shoot this? And, how do I get this video from my phone to the student, on and on. So, all right. Well, guys, this is our first part one of, these are just 5 things, but I think we could definitely do a part 2 and part 3. So if you enjoy this type of content, please let us know. Whether you're listening to this in the audio version or you're catching a micro or a macro clip of this, thank you so much for spending your time with us and joining us for one of our special topic sessions. This is an experiment that we've been doing for a little bit now, and if you like it, please let us know so that we know that we should continue doing so. Call to action for this video is you need to consciously try to implement one of these strategies. Like Carl mentioned before, even if you adopt one of these things into your workflow, over time, these will start to become second nature for you. So intention is a big part of that. In the comments below or somewhere, send us a message on social media if you'd like, but share with us how you plan to use it. You haven't done it yet, but you're like, okay, this was my takeaway from today. I'm going to plan on doing this. And I think just throwing that out into the universe, that's a good first step to actually bringing that idea to fruition. And if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, some other video platform, comment below and let us know how you use Video Learn. Maybe you can share some of your ideas that you've used yourself or with your students or with your classmates, and we can jam on it or answer your questions in a future episode on using video to learn. Carl, you want to do our outro here?
All right, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. As Wei said, if you did, do us a huge favor, hit that like button. If you have any questions, comments, leave in the comments below, and we will get back to you. If you have not subscribed yet to our channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single video. You are notified anytime. When you're subscribed, you're notified anytime a new video comes out. And also make sure you share this with your friends. Share it with people who would find this very useful, and share it with your instructor friends as well. They will appreciate that as well.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.
I can't.
Eric, you looked like you were going to say something. I didn't want to jump on you.
Oh, should I say peace out? Catch you guys on the next video. Don't forget to like, subscribe.